The congressman, a congressman from Alabama, Congressman Mo Brooks, exposed and brought to the surface and is calling attention to a training program inside the U.S. Army. It's a training program that was to occur apparently in his home state, Mo Brooks' home state of Alabama, at Redstone Arsenal. It was for uniformed and civilian personnel. The program, which has been put out, and people at this Redstone Arsenal who are invited to attend, uniformed and civilian personnel, is put out by the U.S. Army's Equity and Inclusion Agency. Equity and Inclusion Agency. What is intended, what was going to be taught in this course that people could go to, again, Army, people who are actually enrolled in the Army, people who are active military, as well as civilian personnel from the Army's Office of Equity and Inclusion, included teaching people how to speak in a way that was inclusive, how to not use terms or have missions or beliefs that were inconsistent with what this entity was calling their equity and inclusion agenda. Among the things labeled, they had a pyramid, they have a description of the kind of things that are really, really bad. And so on the top of the pyramid, one example that was a phrase described as a symbol, a signal of COVID white supremacy was Make America Great Again. The U.S. Army, at the time the Commander-in-Chief is President Donald Trump, whose Make America Great Again slogan galvanized voters in 2016, is galvanizing them again now. The actual Army functioning under this president was hosting a program, planned to host a program by the Army's Office of Inclusion and Equity, describing the expression Make America Great Again as covert white supremacy. Other phrases that are going to be taught in this course, taught to people who are part of the Army. And by the way, this program was intended, ultimately, they wanted to have it taught to all upper level Army generals and people in high positions in the Army. Other things that you can't say that were to be excluded from the vocabulary from people in the military include saying all lives matter, include denying white privilege, include anything that is characterized as anti-immigration, English-only initiatives, celebration of Columbus Day, speaking of American exceptionalism, claiming reverse discrimination against whites, and even using the expression, there is only one race, the human race. These were all to be taught by the Army to people at the Redstone Arsenal, uniformed and civilian personnel. Congressman Mo Brooks, a Republican from Alabama, called it out and said, you know what, we cannot go down this path. We cannot be teaching this as though it is Army policy, as though it is American policy, that you cannot say these things. Dozens more suspect both phrases and themes, things you can't say, things you can't talk about, things you can't believe in. We're going to be taught your taxpayer dollars at work, by the way, your taxpayer dollars at work, because the U.S. Army Office of Equity and Inclusion thought up a program where they could basically dive bomb, it could basically bomb, attack, destroy many of the messages that are mainstream America, mainstream political conversation, acceptable conversation in a country rooted in freedom, and ideas that many conservatives are trying to talk about, and ideas actually the president's trying to talk about. They actually managed to get to the point of sending out this memo, inviting people to sign up for this, before it caught the attention of Mo Brooks. He has now asked for the Army to basically, called them out and said he wants Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy and Army General Counsel to look into this, to look into how in the world did this get passed, did this get into place so that we're thinking of teaching these things to members of the military, people who are serving our country. It's indoctrination, left-wing, political correctness, indoctrination of people in the Army, intended, as I said, ultimately to be taught to the highest levels of officers in the Army and probably everywhere else if they could only succeed in getting it there. Fortunately, Mo Brooks has called attention to this. I raise it in today's First Five as kind of a continuation of a theme I've been on recently, which is to recognize the anti-American left, the left committed to destroying America, is relentless. Relentless. They are doing things right under our noses. It's been happening, as we've talked about many times on the show recently. For the last 80 years, you've had the communists in this country since the 1920s and up into 100 years, working to push the anti-American, anti-Judeo-Christian society, anti-freedom agenda that the communists embrace and love and push. They have been at work insidiously putting that agenda into American schools, colleges, grad schools, kindergarten, throughout the public school system, and in our culture, and all sorts of institutions in our country, even in the Army. And I'm hoping in this era of Donald Trump, the era of someone coming along and actually committing to drain the swamp, which does not mean just to get rid of people in Washington, get them out of there who have been mired in the Washington swamp for too long, who are deep state people who push their own agenda and decide what they want America to be, and they ignore the commander in chief, they ignore the will of the people, they ignore why the people in this country voted for Donald Trump. That deep state mentality President Trump committed to. He ran on draining the swamp, not just of the people who do that, but the ideas about the embedded ruling class mindset in Washington. Certainly the anti-American left that has placed people, especially during the Obama administration, placed the anti-American leftist Marxist mindset in very high places in our government, in the CIA, FBI, DOJ, NSA, all sorts of places. You had President Obama for 8 years insidiously planting anti-American leftists in very high positions in our government. So now we're at the point that you had the military actually planning to train people on your tax dollar, train people to think that they can't say make America great again. They can't question the agenda of white privilege, which is basically to force the radical Black Lives Matter agenda on everyone. It was a great thing that Mo Brooks called this to America's attention. Astonishing we've gotten this far, but it is a great reminder. You can never have your eyes closed. You can never for a moment drop your guard. The left in this country is not about just winning one election, moving America a little bit toward maybe higher taxes on the rich and maybe larger benefits through our government programs. That's not where the left lives anymore. They haven't lived there in a long time. The anti-American left in this country lives in the world of destroying the idea of America, the beauty, the greatness, and dare I say it, the exceptional nature of America. That's where the left lives, and we better be wide awake every day, recognizing the many, many avenues and venues they have found to push their anti-American garbage. It's a great thing Mo Brooks brought this out. I hope there is an order, perhaps an executive order, if nothing else can suffice, an executive order shutting this garbage down. And that, my very fine friends, is today's First Five.